Ding dong, Carolyn live.
I'm way too big. Need to find a way forward.
Just keep all that inflation shit away from me, alright?
I'm way too big.
Fuck. Demon spirit, or must succeed a wisdom save or be driven crazy.
Let's march!
Someone there?
Oh, I could go for a good meal. At least things have stayed interesting. Making me sweat.
I'm breaking a sweat.
I've got a long road ahead. I'll take that. Very well.
Kiki, do you love me? Sumerian. Makes perfect sense.
After discovering the astral rift, we developed the rift sphere, making it possible to
Punta.
The punchline? I'm not quite sure what it is.
In the wide pantheon of jokes and humorous sayings, there are certain gags with which most of us are so familiar that they will forever fail to provoke a laugh. Knock knock, who's there? Why did the chicken cross the road? What's black and white and red all over? In the eyes of the internet, however, in the last couple of years there has been one historical groaner that stands above all others. Urgire estamshe inkuma, ning name igi no mundu, nengal take inishe. A dog walked into a tavern and said, "I can't see a thing. I'll open this one."
Sumerian.
Okay, so maybe this joke doesn't have quite the resonance that it would have had back in its
Oh,
day.
it has.
But that's just how language and culture move along. You know, if you go back just 500 years, the English language becomes increasingly difficult for us to parse, as anyone who's had to learn Shakespeare in school can probably attest. And That's only going back, say, 500 years. If you go back even further, to the time of, say, Old English, which was a language that people spoke in England before the 13th century, then things are just going to become completely incomprehensible. And that's only really going back 1,000 years. By comparison, the joke which I just read out was written in Sumerian nearly 4,000 years ago. Not only is our understanding of this language going to be much less robust, but there's going to be all types of societal context that we're just never going to be able to understand. And indeed, it's this incomprehensibility that made this joke catch the internet's eye in the first place. Over a year since its first burst of popularity, I still see people referencing it on a fairly...
Zone, I think that's a bit of a wishful extrapolation if the rest... think of spiders.
Bunda.
There are a few words for spider in Old English that we have recorded. Among others, spidra, artorkoppe and hunda. Although I think it's pretty obvious which one of these has survived best today, let's talk them through like I did in the Corvid video. In Middle English they'd be something like spidra, atterkoppe and hunter. In Modern English, spider or spider, atterkop and hunt, although if we're going analogous to the Old English word it would be hunter, because the Old English word means thing that hunts. These words all still have some presence in Modern English or immediately pre-Modern English. Spider is obviously the normal word for this animal across dialects today. We think of some spiders as hunting spiders, although that may have been sort of reintroduced as a biological classification rather than being a survival of the Old English word. And the word atterkop is recorded at least recently, if not still used today, in various dialects, including my favourite traditional dialect, Cumbrian, and I think Tolkien also makes use of it. As for the spider versus spider thing, this is a common kind of alternation where the th sound sometimes hardens to d between vowels. This is also why you see old texts say murther rather than murder, and you do see spellings in pre-modern but post-Old English suggesting spider. So in Old English,
Spithra. Unspithra.
if you're from Britain, you might recognise these natural specimens on the ground here, and you might know why I put them in this video. Even if you're not from Britain, you might recognise that they're some kind of chestnut. These are horse chestnuts or conkers. They're completely inedible, shiny, woody nuts that grow in early autumn. Children used to play a game where they drilled holes through them, put them on a string and whacked them against each other. Whoever's conker broke lost the game. This is all very recent stuff compared to the early medieval period. But there's this folk idea that conkers scare away spiders, that if you put conkers around the corners of your house, spiders will avoid them. For a long time this was something where different people had different ideas about how true it was. Some people thought it was just an old wives' tale, others thought that it probably was true. In 2018, one study showed that at least 3 species of spider do tend to avoid chestnuts. In my experience, a lot of people don't put conkers around the house just to deter large nests of spiders that will hatch and invade. They put them around to deter any spiders, because to many of us, spiders are repulsive, scary things. Not everyone feels that way, of course, but it's a common enough fear and a specific enough fear that a decent bit of research has gone into it. So what did people in early medieval England think of spiders?
Hunda. Namu Hamida.
There are a few words for spider in Old English that we have recorded. Among others, spidra, artorkoppe and hunta.
Aterkope.
Although I think it's pretty
Hunta.
obvious which one of these has survived best today, let's talk them through like I did in the Corvid video. In Middle English they'd be something like spidra, atterkoppe and hunta. In Modern English,
Hunta.
spider or spider, atterkop.
Are you having trouble finding a place for your precious bundle of...
A man was critically injured following a crash early Friday morning. The driver was not wearing a seatbelt and was ejected from the truck.
Hunta.
He died at the scene. Law enforcement writes tickets to save lives.
Hunta. 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 Hunta.
걔 누구인가 가까이 와보시게 옳지 조금만 더 그래 얼씨구 좋다 겁없이 밤길을 거니는 나그네여 내 말 좀 들어보 나뭇잎 동동 띄운 물 한 잔 마시며 잠시 쉬어가